So, hello everyone. Okay, buongiorno, and welcome to the second day here in Lisbon or at home. We will talk about RAWGraph as the first tutorial of today. We are Federico and Mattia, and we are part of the Density Design Lab. With us there are also Elena, Celeste, Camilla, and Alessandro. First of all, you will need to access some material from this folder, and this link will be sent to you in the chat by Mattia. What will we talk about today? We will talk about RAWGraphs, obviously. This is the second part, the most advanced one. And we will have an introduction to RAWGraph, and we will talk about what you need to know to use RAWGraph, so about dataset and visual models. And then we will have a guided exploration of the website, with also some time to let you know to explore it and show us what you can do with it. These are also other important links that you will use during the tutorials. So let's start talking about RAWGraph. RAWGraph is a website. You can access it at the address rawgraph.io, and it's important that this is a website because it's not an app that you need to download, but is an open source web tool that you can access by every browser. And it was developed by Density Design Lab together with InMagic and Calibro to create custom vector-based visualization with the d3.js library. It's important because we can say that RAWGraph is the link between the spreadsheet and the data visualization. And it's useful because it's one of the many possible choices that you can use to make visualization, but his strong point are the fact that it's fully free and open source. It has an easy to use interface that we spend a lot of time to develop, and it's also a good thing because it facilitates the design-oriented approach to data visualization, so that as designers are a little bit happier about it. It's important to use RAWGraph to show the complexity of data. Many times a simple Excel diagram does not pay justice to the complexity of your dataset, so you will need to use RAWGraph. This is one of the examples of the visualization that you can achieve with RAWGraph. This is by Michele Mauri, and is a representation of the most searched Wikipedia pages in 2020, adapted to suit the dimension of an Italian newspaper, the Corriere della Sera. Or this is another example by Carlo De Gaetano that shows the immigration from countries around the world, how it affects foreign direct investment between those countries and the US. This is a tree map that has been divided into sections to resemble a globe. So let's talk about how to use RAWGraph. There are 5 or 6 different steps. The first one is obviously to grab a dataset that you have to copy and paste on RAWGraph. Then you have to select the right visual model to map the data to the visual variables, and then you can export it. You can export the result. Here you have 2 options. You have the vector quality or the raster format. If you export it as a vector, you can add another step, the 6th, where you can modify your visualization with software such as PowerPoint, Inkscape, Illustrator, or Figma. But, okay, you need to grab a dataset, but which dataset? It's important to point out the fact that you have to select and organize the right dataset. So, first of all, you need to know the difference between the matrix dataset, also known as wide or unstacked, and the list dataset, narrow or unstacked. If you have one type of dataset and you need to convert it to the other thing, don't worry, RAWGraphs has your back, so you can use the tool that is linked below to to convert it. There are differences between metrics and list dataset. For example, metrics is used for dispersion, matrices, hierarchical and network, and the list is used for time series and flows. Then you have your dataset. You have to select the right one for your visualization, but you need to simplify it, because RAWGraphs works better if you have a better organized dataset. So you need to keep in mind the fact that the purpose of the research is to find an answer to the research question. So you will need a question that you will answer with your visualization. For example, this visualization is made possible with only 3 columns of the dataset that you have seen before. So no need to complicate things with a bigger dataset. Then when you have selected and organized your dataset, you can copy it on RAWGraph, and then you have to select the visual model. But again, which visual models? There are a lot of visual models, to be fair, and some of them are unique for a specific type of data, but also there are data that could be represented by a lot of different visual models. You can filter the visual models according to your type of data on RAWGraphs itself, so it will be easier. We will see some the main families of the visual models. So they are the hierarchical, relational, temporal, statistical, distribution, and spatial, and 4 of them are covered by RAWGraph. The first one is the hierarchical model, for example, the circle packing, the tree map, or the dendrograms. And this is one of the representations that you can achieve with the dendrogram. This is to be exact, a Rangel-Tilford algorithm that represented the branches of the animal kingdom. The same dataset could be represented also with the Treemap. That's the difference is it is weighted. So on the different section of the graphs represent the number of items in every category. And you have also another example with the circle packing and the same dataset. Another visual model are the relational models, so for example the arc diagram and the Sankey diagram, and this is a representation of the energy sources in the world and the related uses with the arch diagram. With the arch diagram you can order it with the aim to minimize the arcs overlapping, or you can simply order the various nodes by their name in alphabetical order. Another representation is, for example, the Sankey diagram that has the same data set, and the Sankey diagram takes an object and draws the quantity of flows between the different nodes that are represented here with the black lines. And it's important to point out the difference between the Sankey diagram and the alluvial diagram. The alluvial diagram represents the flows and divides the dataset in different dimensions. So you will every node needs to be directed to every single steps. You cannot skip any one of them. So for every black line that you see, all the dataset is represented inside of it. So in this case, we have the hate crime in New York City. Another visual model are the temporal with the time series. So for example, the beeswarm, the line chart, or the Streamgraph. And in this case, we can see a line chart that represents the foreign citizens in Milan that could be also divided into the single streams with the function of the small multiples to make it easier to be read. But also you can represent the same dataset with a BAM chart with different representation that you can see here. The last visual model is the statistical distribution, and for example there are the box plot, the parallel coordinates, or the violin plot. And we can see the most used one, that is the scatter plot, that represents the highest grossing movie in history by their budget and the real worldwide box office. Another interesting representation is this one that represents the shots of Kobe Bryant inside of the basketball court with an hexagonal binding and a counter plot. But this was the introduction, and it's time to get your hand dirty and play with RAWGraphs. So you can follow what I'll do. Okay, we will talk about the Streamgraph, I will talk about the Streamgraph, and Mattia will talk about the Treemap. So let's start with the time series and the Streamgraph. Let's start by opening RAWGraph and click on Use It Now. So in this first section, you have to load your dataset, and you can choose from different options. So for example, you can paste your data. If you have an open tab on Excel, you can copy and paste it simply here, for example, to reduce the dataset if you have the whole file. Or you can upload the whole file browsing through your library. But we will select the third option, that is the possibility to try one of our data sample. And in the specific, we will talk about Olympic medals. So we select our dataset and we can inspect it. We can talk about everything that is inside and view it. And we can also change how our RAWGraph sees the dataset. So for example, we can see that the here column here is seen as a number, but we can change it to be seen as a date. So here we are. Once we have done this, we can come to the following part, that is the one that allows you to choose a chart. And in this case, we will talk about the Streamgraph, the area chart. Once you've selected the visual model, you can map the dimensions of the dataset inside of the chart variables. So we'll start with the year. That is the one that it's mandatory, and we can see it because of this sign. And we will select for the sizes, we can select the medals. And just only with this visualization, we can see that something is going on. So this represents the total number of medals won in every year of the Olympics. But we can do more. So for example, we can divide the graph to represent the different countries. So we can select the country and put it inside of the streams part. We can see that there are a lot of countries, and these graphs is a little bit difficult to be read, so we can simplify it to select instead of the countries, we can select maybe the macro area. So we can start to see something. Another strange thing that we can see inside of this graph is the fact that some streams has the same color, so we can change that. For example, here we can change the color scheme. We have a categorical that is maybe the best one because you can select the color for every single one of the streams. But if you have a high number of streams, it could be tedious to select the colors for every one of them, because RAWGraphs only put 10 colors for the streams. So we can select others, for example, the spectral discrete, that is my favorite, that allow you to put the colors automatically to every streams. So this is absolutely easier to read, and we can maybe talk about the readability of the labels, so we can do something about it. So for example, we can add an outline to make it easier to read, but since we are still not satisfied with it, we can take away the single label to use a legend that is far better. So we here have a nice graph, but something that's missing is, for example, the y-axis. But we can see that just adding the y-axis is not enough, so we can also enhance the margin, so for example from 10 to 40, so that we can also read every single one of the values on the y-axis. And this could be one representation that we could be satisfied of. So I don't know if everyone is following and you are at the same moment of me. If you need some help, maybe I can stop for a moment and then we will go on. I don't know if you have any question about this representation, but we will talk about it a bit more if everyone is done. Okay, so I don't see questions in the chat, so I will go on. Once we have done with our representation, we can also change other aspect of it. So for example, we can change the curve type. Here is used monotone, but we can use, for example, the steps that are steps with the data point in the middle, or my favorite one, that is the linear, that connect the single data point with a straight line. And another thing that we can do is, for example, to change the vertical alignment, for example, with the option to expand it. Here we can see that the height is always the same, and also the values on the y-axis changes, because the height always represents the total number of medals, and the streams represent the proportion between the various macro area. But another interesting representation is the silhouette, that is the same of the one that we had before, but with the difference that it's centered in the middle of the graph. But let's keep it simple and get back to the normal one. Once we have finished with this representation, we can save it. There are different options, as I said before. So for example, you can save it on SVG if you need to modify it with vectorial editor, for example, Illustrator. You can save it on as PNG or JPEG if you need it to be ready to use and put it inside of your representation. Or you can save it as a .RAWGraph, that is a new function, and we will do it now. So what does the .RAWGraphs format do? Let's say that you are working with a team and many people has to work with your representation. You can work on your part and then you can save it as .RAWGraph, and when someone else reopen RAWGraph, it can click on the load your data section on the part that says open your project. In this case, you can browse your file and select your file.rawgraph, and you can see that you have the same dataset as before with your modifications. So for example, here the here are seen as date and not number. The visual model selected is the same, the variable are the same, and you have the same representation so that everyone can work on it. So let's work on it a bit more, and we can, for example, say that we want to isolate the single streams inside of the graph, and we can do that with RAWGraph, selecting again the macro area and putting it inside of the series. We can see that here we have the single streams divided into different graphs. So for now, the legend is useless because we have the single name of the macro area right here, so we can take away it. But the graphs itself are a bit cramped, so we can enhance the width of it. So, for example, 1800, and this results in easier reading of the graphs and an easier comparison of the different streams. Again, you can, for example, change the colors again, or you can leave it as it was. And another thing that you can be tempted to do is the fact that you can say yes, but for example in South Asia the streams is not really really easy to read. So one thing that you can do is to change the scale on the y-axis, but this is not a good idea because we can see that it's easier to read the streams of the South Asia macro area, but you cannot compare it anymore with the other graphs because the scale on every graph is different. So the right thing to do, for example, is to know that even the fact that these streams is smaller is a data itself, but if you can, for example, make it easier to perceive this single stream, you can, for example, change the alignment as we've seen before. So, for example, here, if you select the silhouette, the alignment is in the middle, and you can see these streams easily because the x-axis does not cover it anymore. You can be tempted also to select the expand one, but this represents the total number of medals won by every macro area, and it's not useful, as you can see. So the best option is the silhouette one. And I think that's it about this single graph. So we can again save it as .rawgraph if anyone has to work on it, or as JPEG and PNG if you need it to be ready to use. So that's it. We will get back to our presentation. Okay, and here you have a description of everything that we have done, if you want to repeat it by yourself. So we will talk about hierarchies with Mattia now.
All right, so now I need you to follow a few steps because we're going to talk about hierarchies. And to do that, because it's going to be still an experimental function, beta 1, you need to open another version of RAWGraphs, and I'm going to paste the right links in the chat because it's going to be easier to follow them. So, where can I find it? Once again.
This one.
Oh. No, wait, just a second. It's complicated with 3 different screens.
Right here.
I can't see it. Ah, yeah, probably. You're right.
Here, chat.
Ah, yeah, you're right. Okay, great. So, these are the steps we're going to follow for the first 4 steps we're going to follow for this tree map visualization. So, we're going right now to switch entirely to RAWGraphs, and to do that, we first need to download our dataset. That it needs to have URLs with images. If you don't have one, which is plausible, just follow the first link in the chat, and we can see here there are a few pandemic objects that have been found on Etsy, and they are also categorized by the query they've been looked for. They have an ID, so the column with C, and a few labels. The first thing we need to do is to download this file, and you can choose either to use to download it in a CSV format or in a TSV. We recommend a TSV format, although even the other one would work fine. So we're going to download it. And the second thing to do is to convert all our images into a base 64 format. To do that, we follow the second link inside the slides. It's a tool developed by Tommaso Elli. He is a fellow researcher at Density Design. And we see here we can already upload our data. So we've chosen the TSV format, so we're going to keep it we're going to keep this option, and we need here to paste our file. We can either browse it from the computer, or even easier, we just take it from here, we drag and drop it, and it's already loaded. The thing we need to do now is to specify where our image URLs are. It's written down here, it's asked, and the column with the image URL is actually called image URL, so it's pretty easy to do that. And of course, if any of you needs a hand, if you need to stop, just ask it, and I will go a little bit slower, or even stop entirely. Once we have selected the URLs, we're going to check this box to use the course proxy, and otherwise it won't actually convert it. And you can see here, down here, the progress bar, as for now, is at 0. Once we checked it, it's going to load it.
Wait,
and
there is a question.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
What file should I download there?
The file that you should download is... Wait, I just wanted to... It's the first link of the steps, so download the data set here.
I can send it again.
Yeah, thank you. And the format, you need to download it, because it's the only two options that are read by this tool, is either the CSV format, and if you do it, please flag here the CSV option. Otherwise, in the TSV, again, when I click on the second link. Yeah, that's strange. Can anybody access? What kind of?
The tool is not open.
The tool is not open.
It's giving you this.
All right, that's quite strange.
The second link.
The second one.
Because it works for me. Try to do it again.
Yeah, me too. I don't know which browser are you using.
Go on the chat, not on the top.
But also that one works. I use that one and it works.
Step number 2. Oh, is the link.
So in the chat works.
Yeah, the chat works.
Yes, if you use the link on the chat, it apparently works. So I don't know.
Okay, strange.
Let us know.
Yeah, of course. And as I said before, being this, or the RAWGraphs version, and the Treemap we're going to use is still an experimental function. If you find any bugs or anything that really doesn't work or has problems, feel free to reach out and to notify us. So it's going to be implemented as soon as possible, of course. So
I think everything is clear. Or?
yeah, if you can access this website, I will go on. Otherwise, because there are really fundamental steps to follow to understand it. All right, I can't upload. That's strange.
Nice.
So it doesn't allow you to browse your folders into the from the computer.
Maybe it's a matter of authorization.
No. All right. I think it's something that has to do with the observable itself. Yeah, I would try. I don't know if you have something cached, or I have no idea, some local storage that doesn't
Maybe
allow.
use another
Even with another browser, we recommend to with this drag and drop word. Okay.
Thank you.
that's good to know. We recommend using Chrome because we have seen it's the browser that has the least amount of problems sometimes, because Safari sometimes decides to like strike and really don't work. I have
Using Chrome.
no idea. All right, let's try to figure this out.
Maybe the drag and drop?
Yeah.
Maybe
also,
the-
have you tried the drag and drop?
I can show you once again. Okay, so the drag and drop works if it's something that might be useful. If you take this file and then drag and drop it here on.
Drag and drop works. Nice.
Okay. I have no idea why the browsing option doesn't work. Maybe after the tutorial we can try to figure this out and then let you all know. So if now just give me an input if I can go on.
Yeah.
If somebody, yeah, if we had only these two problems, that
Okay. Okay.
very nice.
I can drag and drop on Chrome. Nice.
Yeah. What could be another workaround?
Have you tried another browser?
Now it's Chrome that the one that's not working.
All of them.
All of them, yeah.
It's not possible to choose the file in order to try to.
Maybe we can see this later.
Trying just a quick troubleshooting. I would say it's something that has to do with permissions, like if your browser isn't allowed to browse your files, you know, when you install new apps, new softwares, they ask them to the consent to it, but should be strange because I think you already use a browser. We might maybe figure this out a little bit later when I finish this walkthrough. You can try to share your screen and we can try to work this out together, if that's okay, because right now, without even seeing the screen, it's really difficult to imagine what it would be. Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
It was in an incognito mode.
Yeah. Also. Maybe we will wait.
Yeah, just wait a second then. Yeah, no problem.
Everything's fine here.
Yeah,
Yes.
without already, we order anyway, you get the guys that are now monitoring the other steps.
All right. I might go over it. Did you choose the TSV? All right. Yeah, of course, that's something very important to choose the right format, because other types of file won't be uploaded, as you've seen before. Like I can show it once again. I'm here, I'm able to select the CSV or the TSV one, but others might not work, so yeah, right, I have to choose it. Other files won't work, so it needs to be a TSV with the correct option flagged. So if I can just repeat this step once again. Once you uploaded the file, you flag the course proxy, otherwise it won't start the encoding here. You see the progress is already done for this one, but as you see, progress 0, and then it has encoded all 200 images. And once we're done with this, I hope everybody now is on the same page. We go here under these 3 dots and we download our CSV file. this one is going to be the file we're going then to use on RAWGraphs. So I have it here. It's saved as data in brackets 1 because I already downloaded another day. And the next thing we need to do is now we have the data set, but we need still the new visual model. To do that, we have to follow the third link I sent you from the steps. Are you going to send it? Okay. We're going to paste it once again in the slides. No, that's the second one.
Sorry.
Wait, I have it. No problem. Okay, is this file here. If you open it, and I hope it opens for everyone, because it's something I was sure about, but not anymore now. You see it's just a JavaScript file, a plain JavaScript file, and you need to, I can't find my mouse, all right. You need to right click in the blank space, so here it's white, everywhere where you see it's white, right click, and you get the option with Save As. Once you select this, it's going to ask you what the name is going to be, so we can leave it as it is. And another important step, because we're dealing with these file formats that don't have to be changed, and we leave it with the JavaScript extension. Once we do that, we hit save. I already had it, so I'm going to save another one. It's not a big deal. And now, once we have our small bits together, we're going to open RAWGraphs, but it's not the the stable version, but instead the fourth link that I'm going to paste once again in the chat. We need to open the more experimental one, so the sandbox. It's going to ask you for a username and a password. They're both times row and row. I see we have a little doubt, so I'm going to stop just a second. Is everything fine? Okay, so once we open RAWGraphs, I don't need to log in because it cached my user data, so it's it keeps. Otherwise, you're going to have a small dialog box asking to put the username and the password. In both cases are row, R-A-W. And we can start to upload our data. As we've seen before, we have different ways. We can paste it, we can drag and drop again our file, we can choose to upload our data. As seen before, we browse our computer. Once again, if you struggle to upload the data by browsing, okay, great. By browsing like this, you can do here. What you can do is just take the file from your and drag and drop it. RAWGraphs is going to take just a second to process and parse all the data. And you see here, I don't know if you remember, the first time we saw this data set, it had only 7 columns. Now, if we slide all the way to the right, we have a base 64 one. So the encoded column that's going to be used to store all the image data. So in fact, this data set and the file is 7.2 megabytes. So you see it's already embedding all the images. And the useful thing is even if the URLs one day are going to be deprecated, you still have all the images saved like locally on your computer, and you can use them as long as you have the file. So we have uploaded our data. Now we need to choose a chart, or better say a visual model. We can see here, as for now, we have already, actually I have already a tree map, but let's say we don't have one. That's actually the visualization as you should have it on your computer. So without the tree map down here. To upload that visual model, we can have, again, we have 3 different ways to do it. Of course, we've downloaded a file, so we're going to choose it from our Explorer or from the Finder if you're using macOS. By doing like this, we select the JavaScript. Treemap is already available for you. Yeah, there might be a Treemap available, because that's maybe this one, but it's not the Treemap with images. Also, we have the Treemap with Voronoi, but they're not using images. Yeah, okay, great. To use the one with images, we're going to choose a file from our computer and select this one, the JavaScript file we downloaded before. By hitting open, there's going to be a little warning box saying we're going to execute a JavaScript file and it's at our own risk, but I can assure you nothing is going to happen, nothing bad. We're not going to keylock your password, so that's fine. And hit continue, and right now you should have it here, down here. You see Treemap, and it's specified that's about images. One useful thing to add is this file is going to be stored locally on your computer. So as long as you don't clear your local storage, you don't delete the cookies or the browser and the whole navigation part, it's going to stay there even if you reload the page or if you open it in another moment. It's just if you want to delete it, you have to hit here this little trash bin icon. So we're going to choose it as our preferred visual model, and we see here we have a few chart variables and the dimensions here. I'm just going to remind you the dimensions here you see listed here are the columns we have seen before, so there are 8 dimensions. To start building our visualization, we need to drag and drop the different dimensions into the variables. The first thing we want to do is to see how many categories there are. So as you can see, there are 4 different categories: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Another thing we can do to help us visualize them is to drag and drop the categories also in the color, so they're going to be differentiated based on the color they get. And now we can start with, for example, the size. As for now, we don't have a weighted chart. But we can achieve that by first maybe let's do it like this. We drag and drop the image name, so we're going to have all these are going to be the 200 images we seen before, the 200 data entries. As I was saying, this is not a weighted chart. To have one, we're going to map also the size option. We've talked about this before, but it's a quick reminder. The size accepts only numbers, so we don't have many choices in this case, because the only thing we as a number is how many people rated it on Etsy before. So by drag and dropping this, you already see the images or the squares and boxes start to change, and based on how many people rated the single image. So maybe the last thing, or we're quite close to the end, the last thing we need to do is actually to tell what images and what images we want to map. And that's going to be the base 64 column. So we just take this one and nice. What? Let's see. Yeah, that is something I was talking about bugs and so on, because it might be a simple error. Let's see if we change it. This or count. Okay, let's.
Maybe try with Dataset.
Might be that the data set just, yeah, you know, could be. Wait, let's see if the image name, because sometimes being this an experimental one has a few difficulties. Yeah, you see, for the people following from home, it works. So that's something. It might happen. I'm just going to reload the page. Maybe it's going to be.
Depends on the connection. So
Sorry.
depends on the connection.
Yeah.
So it was like
Yeah, I see people writing from home. It worked. So I'm just going to do that once again. I'm happy it works from home. Better this than the other way around. So. Great. You see, as I was talking before, that we have still the Treemap visual model. We're going to select it once again. Let's try if it works now. All right, like this. Then we put it again in color. We want the hierarchy based also on the image names.
Image URL inside of
No, we need the base64. I put it.
I don't know.
maybe it's Azure that is blocking the upload.
Try image URL.
I can connect it with Azure.
Because it's coming.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me see yours.
Now it's uploading yours.
Yeah, that's great.
Now it's working.
Okay, it's working. Okay.
Yeah. Right now, a workaround that could be done, apparently, is to use the URL. So, as you see, we don't have the embedded images right now because it's going to take a little bit to download them all from the different URLs. But that's a way we can visualize them on RAWGraphs. Pay attention, as I said before, the URL might become deprecated after a while, so we always actually encourage you to use the base64. Maybe it might be that now there are many people connecting to RAWGraphs and there are going to be a few bugs, and explaining why the base64 encoding didn't work right now. And now we have this this chart right here that's actually ready to use.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Right now we're going to play a little bit around with a few values we have in here. So for example, let's increase a little bit the width to 1200 pixels, and also the height might be a little bit greater. So for my screen it works almost perfectly with these values. And another thing you might want to do is, for example, to change the tiling method. Actually, we recommend right now the Squarify, but something we want to make clear, it's actually up to you what you want to use and what's the best visualization that's going to suit your presentation, your idea, your project. So, for example, we want to use slice. Right now, I wouldn't really recommend it, but maybe there is a case. It's going to be the best method possible. But as you can see, we have various one. This one is actually a bit more comprehensible, dividing the columns into, dividing the categories into columns. But as for now, we're going to keep it with a Squarify. You can also increase the padding a little bit if you want to have a more distinct categories. And also another thing you might want to do is to change in the image the fill area option. As for now, you can see there is the whole image is contained inside its box, its container, but by flagging this one is going to be stretched all over. So still maintaining the proportions, but for example, this one, I think it's a good way to see it. It's going to be cropped. And lastly, maybe what you want to do is to show, for example, hierarchy labels. All right. But first, of course, mapping them with the labels. So we're going to put, you can put anything you want. You can put the category, the query, or even the image name. So it's going to be a unique ID for each image, but it's going to be a little bit complicated maybe. So we can now add these labels, as you can see here. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. But as we said before, they're not really readable right now, so we might want to outline them to make them pop out a little bit more and just to make them easier to read. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Then something we wanted to make clear is you can play along with RAWGraphs. It has so many different options that it would be maybe also a little bit tedious now to explore them all, but it's really up to you. You might want to show the legend, or it's going to be on the right side, of course, if my screen is a little bit cramped right now. Showing the legend by category, or if you think it's going to be redundant, just unflag it. So really, we encourage you to experiment a little bit, and just for that reason, we would like now to invite you, because I think we might skip the last tutorial, because we had also just a little. Where can I find it? Right here. Well, if there was a little bit of time, we would have shown you also the matrix plot, but I think it would be more interesting if you right now start with a few questions, if you have any. Otherwise, where is my cursor? Here. Oh dear. So, if you have any questions, feel free to ask right now. If you're still struggling maybe with the visual tree map, we're here to help. Otherwise, wait, yeah, Francisca, you raised your hand, please.
Yeah, I was wondering, because right now we're using the image URL, no, sorry, the post URL, right? And
yeah.
Yeah, but those URLs, I experienced that they expire, especially with Instagram. So is it also possible to use the image ID, just this number with the .jpeg in the end, which I got from the image URL, and then upload those get those pictures from a folder where I downloaded the pictures before? Is that also possible?
So if you have downloaded the pictures before, they still would need base64 encoding, because right now RAWGraphs is not going to be able to read like the data set. I might want to show you again. I'm really struggling with all these monitors, sorry. No, this one. No, not even this one. This one. Yeah, as you can see here, we don't have like images or .jpegs images. You would need to convert all that the entire folder into base64 strings, and with that data string, if you create a column, you then might be able to map them inside RAWGraphs. To do that, there are plenty of online tools, so you can just find the one that suits you most. I think there are, I already used a bunch like bulk converters, so I would suggest to do that like this. As for now, RAWGraphs doesn't really provide and can't read JPEGs as a whole image. It all needs to be a data string.
Another thing they can do
Okay.
maybe is
Thank you.
post the images on their server so that it doesn't expire. And then use that link.
Yeah, of course. As you mentioned before, if you're using Instagram URLs and they might expire, you can re-upload your images and on your server or in other free tools that are available online, and then use that URL. But of course, it depends on how how much do you trust the server, because it might expire, the service might close, or it might happen there's going to be an error, so they're not going to be accessible for a while. So what we actually encourage right now is to have them stored locally, and then maybe with the base64 encoding you will be able to recreate this plot without any problems.
Okay, thank you. So I could simply use those image folder and upload it to that website you shared the base before, and then it would create.
So if you were planning to upload the image folder here, it might be a little bit complicated because it only accepts these two file formats. So
Yeah.
if you have the image URLs, still you might create a CSV file only based on URLs. So basically you have a file with only the highlighted column. You save it and then you upload that one on here, and you can then use the converter automatically. If you have a folder full of JPEGs, then this tool won't be won't be of any help. But there are any other tool online that is going to convert your image into a base64 string.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So as we were saying, if there are any other questions, I can stop just for a second. Otherwise, I would highly encourage you to experiment a little bit with RAWGraphs. As we have experienced before, the sandbox version might have a few bugs, so try the stable and normal one, so app.rawgraphs.io. And what we would say, if you have already an available data set of your research or anything you want to use, please do so, and try also to answer one of your research questions, maybe through the visualization you're going to create. Once you're satisfied with the visualization, you can paste it here, as we have shown yesterday for those who attended. And then we might discuss a little bit. And as for now, we're going to stay here, give you a little help if you need it. And yeah, another thing I forgot to mention, if you have problems like during this sprint week, you can clearly reach out to us. We have also a help desk Slack channel. And yeah, that's it for now. So please try, experiment, and have fun with RAWGraphs. Thank you.